Hello there, guys. I'm just making a quick video to help you with the tasks while I'm off and isolating with COVID. It's horrible being stuck here, but that's the way it goes, I'm afraid. I'm going to go through how these collage joiners get put together and just review any of these tasks that you need a little bit of help with. The images that I'm showing you on here are just showing you that I need some stitch joiners that are made from your trip tasks and some collage joiners that are also made from both your Birmingham shots, your trip task shots, and I also need you to make about 3 to 5 from your holiday set. So I'm going to go for a little demo of those and I'll show you how all that works out. But when you come to make these stitch joiners, it's going to be really helpful if first of all, and I nicked all of these images, thank you very much, Freya, from your area there. Absolutely marvellous. I appreciate that. Just move this out of the way. Excellent. And I just nipped onto J Drive just while I'm isolating here, and I've got images from holiday tasks, images from the trip task, which is in your induction folder. And I've then just started to think about grouping them together to make those into stitch joiners later on. But for the collage joiners, you're going to need to pick individual ones that you choose yourself, that you correct, you rotate, you make sure that you use your Control B, U and L to get working and get correcting, and then you're ready to go. So don't forget to make sure that you do a few for me from the trip task, and I also want a few using your alphabet portraits and visual elements. If a few of you haven't got those yet, then you need to get cracking with those, get them into J Drive, and then get started. That's what I'll be looking for. Now, most people might ask, what on earth is a collage joiner? And I'm hopefully going to show you that now, if my screen will allow me to. Yes, it is. Marvelous. And what you're going to need to do is, in J Drive, you're going to need to find this folder, which is right at the top of your named folder in the Year 12 Photography Students area. And then you're going to need to open one of these letterbox images. Once you've got those open, that's what you then use to layer in lots of different images together to make the collage joiner. Normally about 3 or 4 images get added. You need to change the sizes. Think about changing the layer mode. I'll show you how that works. And rub through using a big soft brush, not a small hard one. We've talked about that before. Okay, now this is one that I did with Darth Burks earlier before I was isolating with the old Corona there. So that might help just have a little look at an example how I've used a little bit of a black and white layer. I've used one person that's like sort of like full focus there, really lovely cropped angle there, and then one from above. Marvelous. And those are the types of images that I'm going to want you to be making. I'll save this PowerPoint that's got all of those slides onto Teams so you've got it all good to go. And I suppose I better show you how to do it and what to do with it. Oh, that's the wrong folder. That's embarrassing. So what I'm going to do first is just going to nip to the desktop. Just go into my isolation folder, RIP, very sad. And then I'm just going to go into this little collage video area. Now, the sizes for images folder looks a bit like this. You've got these diagonal ones that you may or may not have used for your graphic stuff. And then you've got these letterbox joiners. You can use the long ones, but they're more useful for the stitch joiners. I would use these ones for your collage joiners. I've then just gone and nicked some images. Sorry, Freya. From Freya's Birmingham trip folder. There's a little bit of Burks in there. A mysterious one of Freya. She must have took it of herself. Who knew? And then one of AmyO'Dwyer.com, sponsored by Ryanair. Marvellous. Okay. Now, I'm just going to go into this bit here, Freya's holiday tasks. Oh, look at this. There's portraits in here. There's alphabets. And there's also visual elements. I'll be able to use some of those. I haven't copied them all over because when I'm at home isolating, it's a bit tricky to get them all in the computer and working. So the first thing I'll show you is how to make your collage joiner, similar to this one that I put in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to go into here. And then what you then need to do is get all of these images corrected and then drag them into Photoshop. What I've done is, just to try and be a little bit more helpful and efficient, I've already got them into Photoshop, just so you can see them on the screen here, just using Alt-G and plus and minus just to resize them, just so I can organize my workspace. And I've got some good images out that I feel like I can work with in Photoshop. Now, before you do this, you're definitely going to need to make sure you have one of these letterbox images from those sizes to image files. You're then going to need to make sure you've got your Move tool, which has these 2 tick boxes ticked. You're also going to need your rubber, which must have a big soft edge rubber, just like this. Maybe a little bit bigger. Let's go, oh no, even bigger than that. Oh, there we go, we'll go for that. And then what you need to do is move images into this canvas. So I'm going to start off, let's get rid of Berksy there, just in on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. I was never taught correctly. It's a gift and a curse. And what I'm doing is to make sure that I don't squash it, such as Ollie McBride, he's always squashing images. I'm just holding the shift as I zoom, as I move the image, be smaller or bigger. Don't always resize it so it perfectly fits like this. Sometimes you might oversize it, move it slightly off, just to try some different combinations for your images. So I'm going to move a few images together. Now this one weirdly does actually seem to fit quite well with this one here. You're not always going to want that in a collage joiner, but I'm going to try and take advantage of it now. So I'm going to shrink that back in here. Just going to move this down a little bit. Press enter. Marvelous. And then I'm going to move it over just ever so slightly. And then I'm going to go and use my rubber. Now, if I swap between the rubber and you don't see it, that's only because on the video I'm pressing E and V, which is then switching between my rubber and the move tool at the same time. I'm not doing it with my mind. So I'm just rubbing through that image there. Now, sometimes your layer, when you drag it on, might not be in the right place. You might want yours underneath it. You might want another layer brought up. You just hold down the left mouse button and drag it underneath wherever you want it. I'm going to drag it back up. Just going to pop it back off to the side there. And I'm just going to try and layer and rub this in. So it looks like young Burks is just taking a photo there into the future of Birmingham city centre. How marvellous. Then what I'm going to do is, I'm then going to try and find some other images. Got young Hunter here on a bench. Now, when I saw this at first, I was a little bit concerned. But what I'm also going to do is, when I move it in, I'm not going to leave it the normal way up. I'm not going to leave it the normal orientation of a portrait image. I'm actually just going to see what this looks like if I rotate it by going out to the corner until the cursor goes curvy, holding down the left mouse button, and then I'm going to press enter. And that's what you must always do whenever you're making a collage joiner. Whenever you've moved it, resized it, always press enter. I'm going to rub through a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is, I might actually just leave young Hunter there, just popping into that bit, make her a bit bigger, so she looks like a bit of a giant. That's what I'm going to go for. Just going to go for a bit of a collage joiner sort of series like this so far. Now, normally, when you get photos like this, most of you might be tempted to delete it. Please don't. This can create some really interesting possibilities when you layer them in. So as I drag that in, I'm going to put it over the top. Now, I could just resize it, shrink it into place and try it over here, but I do want you to try using layer modes when you're doing this. Now, if I was to put it here, and then in the layer box where it says normal, if I do 2 clicks in there, and then I can use the arrow keys on the keyboard to go up and down, or you can use your mouse to select different parts. I'm now pressing the arrow keys, and it's then giving me a different mode for that image. Now, what I'm going to do and try and do here is maybe see if I can fit it into somewhere interesting. So I quite like the effect it's having there, but I might just rub a bit of Geordie back through just on there. Then I'm going to rub that through just so it then starts to fit in. So it's almost like a bit of a background texture. As well as trying the layer modes, this one was currently on lighten. You can always go back and change them again. Oh, I think I actually prefer that one. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that one, but rub a bit of the crane through. And then what I'm going to do is, sometimes you might think, right, I don't just want to use colour. I'm going to click back on that original layer. I'm going to press Control U and just bring down the saturation so it's black and white, maybe just a little bit. Just so I'm altering the way that the images get put together. I'm then going to go back, grab another image, then put that in there. Now, that's not gone in on the right layer I was hoping. It's going to be on the top. So I need to drag it to the top again. I'm going to move it over here. Don't worry if some of your images are a bit blurry, because there should be some areas, because they're collage joiners and layered, that are in focus that will help with that. I don't know if that's going to be the right place to put it. It might sort of look like Hunter's like just birthed out a plant there. But we'll see how it goes. It might be that this harsh area here might actually need to be rubbed, because it might be a little bit too sharp and a bit too straight for a collage joiner, which generally need to be a lot more merged. So I'm going to rub that layer first. Back to the move tool, click on that layer, click on this one. I'm going to rub it, just move it a little bit back over to that one there. Now I could leave the collage joiner there, or what I could do is, let's get a big Birks in the middle right there. She looks delighted. It's because she's so ahead with all of her photography work, don't you know? I wonder if she'll see this video. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to move Birks to be in there, sort of like a ghost Birks. There we go. Ghost Birks in the middle. And I'm just going to rub through a little bit on the side there. And see, I'm actually quite happy with that collage joiner, just as it is. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to save it. When you're in J Drive, you're going to need to make sure you're saving it in the right place, not just back in sizes for images. Because I'm at home, I'm going to save it here. Now, because the Freya's work, I'm just going to call it FS, for her initials, of course, CJ for collage joiner, and 1, because it's the first one. Saving it as a Photoshop document, pressing OK. Now, just because I like making your lives a bit harder, please go back and save as again. Yes, again, Ollie. Don't behave yourself. And then save it as a JPEG. That way, it will have the layers saved. If I go back, I'll be able to show you. You'll have the layered one saved as a PSD, as a Photoshop document, and you'll have the JPEG, the flattened version, saved as a JPEG file, which is JPG. So JPG, nice and flat. PSD, you've still got your difference in your layers. That one will be a lot bigger because it has to remember the layers. That's why it's 52 megabytes. And this one, the JPEG, it's a lot smaller. It's 1.42 megabytes, about the size of a floppy disk, if anybody's interested in that information. So I'm now going to do this. I'm going to minimize that back out. I'm not going to show you any more to the trip task, but I want to make about 3 or 5 of those would be great, or maybe even 4. Wow. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close these off. I wanted to have as many out as possible, so I've got lots of choice to choose from when I'm making my images. And then going to open up, let me just move the screen recorder thing. There we go, it's gone. And then I'm going to put these open. Now, these are some of Freya's visual element images. And it seems it's a bit like the Freya show, but it's the first folder I went into, and by jingo, there was some good things in there. I'm now going to open up a few alphabet images as well. I've accidentally, I think, copied a few of those. Oh no, I've done an Isaac and just like copied stuff. Never mind, everything's going to be just fine. I'm going to move these back into Photoshop. Now, with some of them, you may need to correct them and rotate them before you process them. And what I wouldn't recommend you doing is necessarily, getting too many open in Photoshop, purely because it can get a little bit baffling and it can get a bit confusing. Unless you like a lot of things open, which in this case, that's great. So I'm just going to put all the portraits over one side. I'm hoping Freya's not too angry with me about this. I would have used Amy's, but she probably would have shouted at me. And I might have used Burke's, but I can't remember if they were in there, and I don't want to think it's favoritism. So I thought I'd spread the examples about a little bit. So I've got some images in from the holiday tasks, not Freya's holiday tasks. That doesn't make any sense. And all of those, they can be found right in your folder in the holiday tasks, visual elements, alphabet, and portraits. Please make sure you access them for me. I'm going to go back into the sizes for images. I'm going to grab another letterbox. It doesn't matter whether it's black or white, just like Michael Jackson said. I'm going to pop it in there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. Got my move tool, got my rubber, got a hell of a lot of images to pick from here. But first of all, I'm going to go for this caterpillar. I'm going to put this big caterpillar right there. Just going to leave it there. Okay, great. Then I'm going to get this one. Looks a bit like a dahlia and a sunflower combined. Just flexing with my gardener's world knowledge there. Marvelous. I'm going to rub the caterpillar through and a bit of that sunflower. And then I'm going to get young Freya and stick her right in the middle. I am going to shrink her down a little bit so I can see more of the head. And then I'm going to put her about there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub through again just to see what I can then start to make with the layering. At the moment, it might look like it's slightly from an alien film with maybe a caterpillar trying to invade poor old Freya's brain, but we can't have it all. Now, I don't know actually if it will be better, and sometimes you can do this, if you pull the image over itself and have it reflecting. I think I'm going to replace the caterpillar with Freya, a sentence I've never said before, but yet is incredibly relevant to this test. I'm now going to move this one on. It's one from the alphabet. Just going to shrink it in, press enter, change the layer mode just by clicking in the normal bit. That's how I got there. Now, sometimes you might like what it does in one bit, but then not like what it does in another bit. Like I like all this bit here, but look what it's done to Freya's face. Let's face it, it's ruined that face. Let's just rub through. There we go. Face revealed. Let's get a little bit of that lovely flower coming through. Well, this is already going incredibly well. Making sure I'm rubbing through. Sometimes you've got to check for little edges that appear. I sometimes turn the layers on and off to see if there's any edges that are too sharp. Just literally like that one there. So I'm going to go back to the layer. The blue one is the one that it'll work on, and just rub that line off so it doesn't show off when we come to print them. Turn it off, turn another one on. Oh, I've got more sharp edges. God, you'd think I'd be used to this by now. Turns out not. So I'm going to go back onto this layer. I'm just shrinking the brush by using the square brackets just next to the enter key. Then I'm going to put this one on, nothing's showing. That's because it's on a layer mode. And sometimes if you've got a layer mode, it won't show up. If it's on screen, you have to then put other layers underneath it. Now, I'm already nearly fairly happy with this as it is. I just feel maybe we need a bit of something else in there. Let's go for a bit of this. Now, sometimes when you drop an image on, it might be that you just leave it and change the layer mode. Or it might be, in this case, it's sort of made it look something like off Avatar. So I'm going to rub that back out. But I do like that it's made Freya's face into sort of like a bit of a foliage type of bush type of thing. So I'm going to leave a little bit of maybe the hair and the lips showing through. Calm down a bit of that foliage there, maybe just around the top of the eyes. Oops, turn it off. And then I'm just going to rub underneath because I didn't want it looking sort of like floral stubble. I was just hoping it would just give a little bit of a texture to the background. Again, I'm pretty happy with that, just as it is. So that's another one done, saved. Well, it's not saved. It is about to be saved. Make sure you're saving in the right place. Don't just save them right in that image. Please save them in the folder where the developments are or the collage joiners are. Or if you're in doubt, save them right in the top of your name folder, and I'll help you with these when you get back. Now for these ones, I'm going to call this one Whole CJ, just for like Holiday Collage Joiner 1. Save it as a PSD first. Then you'll need to save it as a JPEG again. Sometimes it can take a little bit of time. File, save as. I've already saved it as a PSD. I now need to save it as a JPEG. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to save it right in there. That's what I've just done. I'm going to press all the buttons. I'm going to press this one. I'm going to check and see if they're there. Yes, they are. Excellent. I've just created 2 collage joiners as well as recording this video at the same time, which let me tell you, with coronavirus, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So I'll update this and upload this to Teams so you've got this to look at. If you've got any questions, please message me through the chat or through the private channel. Thank you very much, guys. Toodles.